Hi and welcome. It's Maury Weinstein, President of System Source. Today's presentation on finally an IT remote monitoring and management tool we like. It's a great pleasure to introduce Rich Glenn, Director of Technical Services here at System Source and a master at our tool set. Rich, next slide, please. We hope you're enjoying your pizza. Pizza is a bit of an art rather than a science delivery. If you haven't received your pizza, do contact Julie Dellinger at jdellinger@syssource.com. Julie is our marketing director, and thanks, Julie, for putting together today's event. That pizza looks awfully good relative to my salad. During the webinar, you'll be in presentation mode until the end, but we'll really take questions through the chat and the questions box. So don't hesitate to use those two boxes. We do have your question if you've left any while you register, and Rich would be happy to cover that also at the end. Don't hesitate to view the webinar in full screen mode. There's always demo when Rich is presenting, and you'll need full screen mode to see all the detail. There'll also be an evaluation just after the webinar finish. We appreciate your candid comments. It helps us learn and present better next time. The System Source wheel is in front of you. We go clockwise around the wheel in order to introduce ourselves, and we'll do that for about 20 seconds, and then we'll get right in the meat of Rich's presentation. Clients do come to us to help mature their IT and audiovisual operations. We use our learning center to do as one piece to do that. We've trained about 300,000 people in the Baltimore, Washington area since we started in 1983. We train for higher productivity, lower help desk costs, all of that and more. Of course, we do have classroom rentals available in our Hunt Valley and Columbia contract offices. We use our presentation systems department to create conference rooms, auditoriums, gymnasiums, classrooms. All of that goes on in our presentation systems area. Consulting is where we keep our heavy hitters. This is where we do our cloud migrations, all of our security assessments. All of that is done with our long tenured consultants. Cloud services is code word for our data center. We continue running a data center in Hunt Valley and have done so since 1995. We took our cloud blinders off many years ago. Today, much of our current work is being done at Azure and AWS. Service and support can be done two different directions. One is proactively through our managed services operations, and that's the bulk of our services today. Or reactively when you call us when it all falls apart, hopefully never, but it happens. And that's our support and service help desk. If we maintain efficiently enough, there may be enough money left over in the budget for purchase of new equipment, especially in the Windows 10 to 11 migration. And we do have a configuration center and warehouse in our Hunt Valley headquarters. I should also note that we have our computer museum in our Hunt Valley headquarters. You're welcome to join us. The computer museum is a lot of fun, especially if you like the old stuff. And we have over 1,000 pieces out on the floor. We do bring STEM groups in, corporate help desks for some fun activities, Cub Scouts, all kinds of groups that come in and to see the museum. It's a great tour if you're into it. And on behalf of System Source today, we say welcome. The upcoming webinars are right in front of us. Thanks, Rich. There are 2 more to go before, 2 or 3 more to go before the end of the year. One is System Source Top 5 in 10 minutes. It's a new format for us. In 10 minutes, we show you camera systems transforming video calls, courtesy of our presentation systems department. Kind of interesting format, a change for us. And the last one will be actually mine, which is 9 steps required for cyber insurance claims to be paid in full and to minimize premiums. An important session, especially if your renewal is anytime soon for your cyber insurance. Rich is going to jump right into agenda, and Rich, of course, runs all of our services in our IT areas, so is an expert in toolset. I will introduce also a concept that says successful IT consists of 3 pieces. 1 is the people, 2 is the process, and 3 are the tools. Today we're talking about the tools, and we find that clients come to us when they only can master 2 out of the 3 people, process, or tools. We do have many clients who have trouble in 1 or more areas of that trio, people, process, and tools. You may have a hard time in retention. You may have a hard time in process if that's not a culture of your firm, or you may have a hard time in tool sets if that's not something your organization's into. When you don't have all three, people come to us and say, look, I need help perfecting the third one, or they outsource it so they don't need to perfect whatever the third one is. And today we're talking about both the tool set, and you can get a feeling for the managed services, which of course Rich runs also. You can select between either perfecting that you have all three people, process, and tools, or outsourcing so you don't have to worry about it. Rich, you're on. Thanks for joining us, Rich.
Sure, thanks a lot, Maury. Good afternoon, everybody. So this was our invite text that I guess caused everyone to be here. Maury just talked about the people, process, and tools required for successful IT. We're going to jump into a number of demos, largely from NinjaOne, which is no secret, the cat's out of the bag. That's the tool that we're going to spend most of our time talking about and how it can be used to simplify IT, what's involved with the dashboards, the reporting, automating, all kinds of good stuff. So that is the agenda.
Rich, have you prefaced the audience by saying live demos can cause heart attacks? So just know that.
I'm hoping not to demonstrate a heart attack on camera, but we'll see what happens. You know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So as Maury was talking about the people, process, and tools and how you have to have all three, it became really obvious to me that he was right, because, I mean, he always is, but if you take just pieces of this, like let's say you have process and you have tools, but you don't have people, well, you already know you're doomed. So you don't really have to think too much about that. That's the most obvious of the examples. But you can look at it in another way. And so let's say you have people and process, but you have no tools. So you've put your people in a bad position, and it's difficult to implement your process because you don't have any tools to do it. So that's why you need all three. And to talk about specifics with regard to people, I think that's our next slide. Double check that. Oh, it is. All right. A necessary evil, people. Wouldn't it be nice if you could do everything without any people? How many IT people do you need? All right, so that's a good question. Only you can answer it. Some use a metric with respect to how many devices they're managing. Some use a metric, how many people are they supporting? You need one for every 80, one for every 100, one for every 200. A lot of that has to do with your environment and the savvy level of the people that you support. I added what skill sets do I need? So as a technical recruiter for SystemSource, I always find it an important exercise to determine exactly what am I looking for when I go to hire a technical person. Skill sets, as you know, vary widely, to say the least. And if you have a limited number of people that you're budgeted for, let's say you answered the first question and you need 3, then what skill sets do you need? Do you need an entry-level person, a medium-level person, and maybe one senior? Try to get a little bit of each. And then who is going to interview these people? Interviewing technical people is probably as much art as it is science. So the person doing the interviewing likely has to be technical enough to know whether or not the person will meet the needs of the role that you have opened up. And we have this data here is a little ancient, not really ancient, just a couple years ago, but it's the last data that we have that we totaled everything up because it's a lot. We put out a position and had almost 1,000 resumes that we received. Going through all these resumes, we decided that we actually wanted to interview a couple dozen people, which takes, more time than you would like for it to, and we hired one. So your experience may vary from ours, but this is the last full year of data that we have, and it's somewhat terrifying. And then, after all that, you get to start all over when they decide to move on. Okay, into process. Let's take a look at SLAs. So, how do you define your SLAs? What SLAs are you interested in? How about what types of severities are you going to have? SEV 1, SEV 2, and what are the agreements around those? How quickly do you have to respond to a SEV 1 versus a SEV 2? What kind of escalation standard are you going to have with respect to a technician working on a particular ticket and they get to a point where they're not moving any further? So we have, as an example, we have a rule that says if you're into a technical challenge for 30 minutes and you either have absolutely no idea what the next step would be, or you find yourself making no progress after 30 minutes, then you should escalate the ticket to a more senior engineer. See, standards, what are you going to set for, there's lots of standards, equipment standards, from a device standpoint, what operating systems are you going to run and support? What software are you going to support in your environment, such as, what's your antivirus standard going to be? How are you going to read PDFs? Goes on and on. Protocols. An example of a protocol, see, a good one would be, we check backups for all of our managed service clients every workday. It's a spreadsheet that goes on forever, and it's kind of like the old Listerine commercial, for those of you that are old enough to remember this, when they used to say it's the taste people hate twice a day. So that's what reminds me of backup checking. So it's somewhat mind-numbing, but it's so important. And the protocol we have around that is if a backup fails 2 consecutive runs, then you have to open a ticket and escalate it, jump into it, figure out why it broke. And the only reason that we let it die twice or fail twice is that, as you probably know, if you've spent any time working with backups, they fail fairly routinely. It's not unusual to see a backup fail, and it's not any more unusual to see it work perfectly the very next time it's run. So rather than going in and making configuration changes for a backup that really doesn't need a configuration change, we give it a second shot, and after that, we go after it if it doesn't work. All right, documentation. So where are you going to keep all of your knowledge? So this is typically called a knowledge base. Some people have a wiki. Wherever you're going to have it, you'll want to be careful around permissions, who can access it, what they can see, what kind of sensitive data is in there, those types of things. Procedures, this could be as something like a technical employee handbook that maps out how to handle certain situations and what procedures to deploy at what time. And then finally, customer sat surveys and responses. So just a quick note about customer sat surveys. If you've ever been asked to fill out a survey and you were happy enough with the experience that you clicked the link and went to the survey form, and then realized about halfway through that it was going to be 14 pages, multi-questions per page, and it was going to take you 20 minutes to get through it, and you just close the window and you're done with it. So it doesn't it's not the kind of survey that you want to take, and keep that in mind when you create your survey for your end users. Our survey is super simple. It's rate our service 1 to 5, and if you want to add a comment, please add a comment, and then hit submit, and you're done. And our response rate is unbelievably high. So we get, I'm going to say it's right around 30%. Maury might have a newer number than I have, but the last one I saw was right in that range. Lots and lots of response and lots of comments, because it's easy. They just put in a single sentence if they want to, and they hit submit, and away they go. Okay. Moving on. I wanted to give you an example. When we talk about process, one of the procedures that we have at System Source, and this is a single type of event, what we would go through, what we have documented for an Office 365 email compromise. If you've ever had one, you'll understand that this is actually pretty darn helpful. So our documentation, wiki, knowledge base automatically captures who created it, and when somebody updates it, it grabs who they are and when it was updated. You can see this has actually been updated just not too terribly long ago, last month. And it goes through and gives the technician step-by-step instructions on what they need to do if somebody has a suspected compromise of their email. They start off with locking down the account, right? Blocking, forcing log out of all sessions. We have PowerShell information here, how to do what they need to do. And then we go on to the next page. We're going to block the account from sending email. Here's a good idea. Disable any links. Revoke app passwords. Who would have remembered to do that? Remove suspected compromised account from administrative role. There's a good idea. How about check the phone number under the authentication modes, make sure it wasn't changed. Make sure it's the correct phone number. Check the account, document, remove any suspicious forwarding rules. Forwarding rules is a common component of an email compromise where they want to send all the mail or certain types of mail somewhere else. And we're documenting, saving all this information so that as we make changes to it, we've captured the original state of it, how it was during the compromise. And you thought we were done, and you were wrong, because there's more to do. So we have to remove suspicious rules, delegated access check. It goes on and on and on. And the point of this is just to show you that this isn't easy. So there's a lot that can go under each of the people, process, and tools. This is a single procedure within the process bucket, and there's even more. Oh, here we go. And finally, as we're coming out of the fog, we can start unlocking the user's password, start taking some after action stuff on AV scans, tell them, change your password on anything else that you may have been using, and then write up a post-compromise report for the contact. All right. And then we get to tools, and this, of course, we're here to talk about NinjaOne, NinjaOne RMM, that's Remote Monitoring and Management System. We've been providing managed services at System Source since 2007. It's hard to believe. I remember those days. We've tested multiple RMM solutions. We even ran a single one for 16 of those years, and now are just over 2 years in with the NinjaOne platform. Okay, we're going to take a look at NinjaOne now. Some of the things that we like about it is from the main portal screen, you can get an awful lot of help. So we're going to take a look at each of these. but you can launch documents, videos, you can open a support ticket, all of this directly either built into the portal screen or linked directly to from the portal screen. This is kind of cool. If you put in a ticket, they actually contact you. And on top of that, they try to help you. So they get lots of credit just for that. They have, you'll see Dojo a lot in the Ninja world. So we have documentation, community, and roadmap. And we're going to take a look at all of those, see if I can switch my screen here so that you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully you can see that. So we're at the main screen as soon as you log in, and it will require MFA. So you do have those protections built in. We're at the Get Started screen, and we have all of these helpful selections. We can watch a video. It's going to show us how to add text, how to add devices, how to set up policies, how to enable apps, integrations, manage organizations. And it's actually pretty well done, meaning that as I click into these, the video just runs right here. It doesn't link me out to another site. It just, away we go with how to do all this stuff in Ninja, how to add technicians. Again, video, these are short, quick watches. They have a different one for technicians and one for end users. So what's the difference? So your technician is going to be typically your IT staff, where an end user may be someone who has, we'll say, power user-ish kind of needs. They may need to be able to remote into their own system at work from an external location would be one example. How to add devices. So shows you every single one. There's Mac, Windows, how to add it on a Linux device, and even mobile devices. Setting up policies. Again, you can watch a video, or it can bounce you out to the Dojo knowledge base. And here you'll find, see, I hit policies and conditions. Let's say I want to look at policies. I'm making this up. And then you have all these articles on how to do all this stuff. Pretty helpful. Apps and integrations. So an example of an app would be, say, the ticketing system. That would be an app that you can enable or not. Certain types of remote control. And I think one of our attendees actually asked, they were interested in different types of remote control. So we'll definitely take a look at that. You also have quick links down here at the bottom where the Dojo we looked at already. They have a NinjaOne community where people get together and have all kinds of discussions and help each other. Best practices and tips. You can go in, you can search, whatever it is you're interested in. Lots of good information out there. Lots of people are contributing. There's a product roadmap. I think this tells you a lot about why you might like NinjaOne. One is they're actually developing the product. That's a plus. And you can see here at the top, next release. So this is next time they announce, hey, we're updating the release of Ninja, this is all the stuff that's going to come along for the ride. So this is coming, all this is coming out. And you can see, like, here's the backup stuff or ticketing stuff. Each of these individual tiles, you can click into it and get more information about what it is they're adding to the product in the very next release. And releases, you know, they're not putting out one release a year. These releases are frequent. They're constantly developing for the product. If you click the in development, you can see what they are currently getting ready to put into for release. Look at all these integrations, just crazy stuff. Autotask, ConnectWise, ServiceNow, Intune, all kinds of stuff is coming. So not yet in development, but planned for development. They have a whole list. Again, this is impressive, all the stuff that they're working on. What they're thinking about, they're considering. And a lot of these ideas actually come from the user community. So if you have some brilliant idea of what you'd like to add to their consideration list, you just go in here and submit an idea, and they will give it all the consideration that it is due. Early access, let me get rid of my highlighter. So these are not released, but you can ask to have it turned on for early access, kind of like a beta, if you will. But if you want to play with it, an early access item, these are the ones that are available. And then, of course, released is what's already in the product. And this just goes on for ever and ever and ever. So all kinds of good stuff there. I mentioned that you could open a ticket. Oh, look at this. Expect to deploy an update tomorrow. You thought I was kidding, right? So here we go. They're getting ready to deploy another update. Those Ninja people. Getting a ticket opened is as hard as clicking the little question mark over here. Submit a help ticket. Put in what you need help with. Say, hey, this is like really important. Fill out your category. Let's see, it's an automation question, whatever. Put in your phone number. Boom, hit submit. And they will actually reach out to you. They'll email you. They'll call you. They'll follow up. Support's pretty good. And when people who know me, when I say the support's pretty good, that's high praise, because a lot of times support ain't so good. Okay. Back to, see, we saw the roadmap, we saw community, so it looks like we saw all this. Great. Next up, automating the hard stuff. So we're going to take a look at ticketing with reactive alerting. So how we have systems that can notify Ninja of a condition, an alert, and automatically create a ticket in the system for that. We're going to look at patching and how you configure that. What are some of the options that you have when you configure the patching? You see some of the flexibility that's built into Ninja to make this a little less painful. Patching is painful by nature, but we try to make it tolerable. Scheduled reporting, scripted procedures. These are all things that Ninja supports. And deploying files or applications, I'm going to demo that, assuming that I have time. I'm going to try to demo that. Okay. So all of these items listed on the page here. Make sure I've got the right screen. And I do not. Now I do. All these items listed on the screen, we're going to take a look at in the actual tool itself, starting with ticketing and reactive alerting. So let's go ahead and bounce back over to Ninja, and we'll take a look at ticketing. So in ticketing, we would jump to administration, go to apps, ticketing, which is enabled. And this is where we can figure how we want this module to operate, including simple things like, can customers attach files? What are our business hours? It's nice that the ticketing module actually is able to know what your business hours are. You can set up email notifications. With this particular event, who do you want the notifications to go to? So this is all within your control. You can set up an inbound email address. So anything that comes to that email address will automatically create a ticket. That becomes very convenient if you're trying to create tickets for alerts for external equipment. For example, your network attached storage, maybe your storage area network, managed switches, a firewall, anything that can send out an email to alert you can be directed into Ninja and automatically create a ticket so that you know about it and you can assign it to someone. You can create ticket boards, anything that you want with respect to the conditions, any ticket that is pick your poison, anything that you want. You can put multiple conditions. So the ticket is X and Y, and then you can say, but I only want to see stuff that's a severity critical, etc., and create, and boom, you have a board. And once you have a board, then it's easy to jump to that board just by going over to tickets. And then, like, here's my board. This is Rich's board that I've made just for this presentation. And I have one whole ticket in my board. But this makes it very convenient if you have a group of folks. Let's say it's your help desk tier 1 team, and you want them all to be able to see all the tickets in the tier 1 team, regardless of who they may be currently assigned to. It's easy. You just create a board, you give them the rights to see it, and put in the proper conditions, and away you go. Okay, patching. Let's take a look at, I guess I'll say that patching is an art and a science, and it's not a lot of fun. Nobody really enjoys it, and I know that they don't enjoy it because when we onboard clients, the patch scores typically are very low. So to look at patching, again, let me see if I've got. Yeah, we will jump to policies, and there's lots of granular flexibility in the patching module. So for here, for Windows patches, we have, well, it's enabled, and then you have reboot options. Well, what do you want to do? This happens to be a server policy, so we're thinking about servers. So if the user is logged in, there's a number of things I can do. I can prompt to reboot until they accept it. I can drive them crazy. I can say, every minute, prompt them, make your end user nuts. I can notify them, say, hey, save your work. We're going to reboot in X number of minutes. I can just reboot and say, I don't care about the end user. It's their problem. Or I could do nothing. If somebody's logged in, I'm gonna let it go this time. If the user's not logged in, I also have selections that I can look at. Reboot immediately, attempt to reboot, do nothing. I can set my period, what day of the week, what time, right? So for servers, we decided weekly on Monday at 2 o'clock in the morning is when we're going to attempt to reboot the servers. Assuming they've brought a patch down that requires a reboot. So this is part of patching. It's not going to reboot the server if there's no reason to. Scan schedule. This is when it scans the system to see whether it needs a patch or not. And you can schedule that. When is that going to happen? All it's doing is scanning. The update schedule. This is when it actually pushes the patches that it found that the system needs. For servers, we're doing it every day at 11 o'clock in the evening. You have the ability to do pre and post automation execution. You can decide how to handle different types of patches. Now, we tend to approve pretty much everything, as you can see here, but you don't have to. You can set these to approve, reject, or it can be a manual review if you really want to do that. One of the things that we did choose for manual review is the feature updates. And the reason that we're doing that is if you hover over this little eye, it tells you, I don't know if you can read that or not, but it says that these can include full Windows version upgrades. So we thought we might want to manually be in control as to whether a server is going to have a full version upgrade. Okay. Let's see, what's next on the list? Looks like remote control is next on the list. So let's take a look at remote control. And yes, we did have somebody that was interested in that. We also had one of our attendees may even be using Ninja already, and they were interested in Tips and tricks. Well, here's a tip or trick for you. Just jumping over here. When I was looking at the feature releases, it talked about like hotfix for 10.0 and something for 11 point whatever. And I spent some time trying to figure out what version of Ninja do I even have. And it wasn't obvious. Well, there's a little trick. If you put your cursor about halfway in the screen, not on top of anything, hold down the control key and then hover over the NinjaOne icon, it gives you the versions of everything, server, the agents, etc., so that you know where you are in the Ninja world, since this is a SaaS product that we're using, and they update it at their whim. So this way we always know where we are. Okay, remote control. Let's take a look at a system. I'm just going to pick on myself. And here I am. So this is a laptop that I have typically at the office, and it's going to show me all kinds of information about. This is all pulled in by virtue of having an agent running on the system. So I know exactly what kind of system it is, what it's running, and the build, and all this good stuff. It has the serial number, which is nice, and I can even click that link. It's going to bounce me out to the site that's appropriate for that system. I can slam in the serial number and do a warranty check and come up and say, hey, your warranty is expired, and here's what it used to be, and here's what it died. So that's kind of handy if you're trying to make a decision on a piece of equipment as to whether you should spend any money on it. From a remote control standpoint, at the very top here, I've got a number of things that I can do. One of which is I can open up a command prompt, and it may prompt me for oh, look at that. So it prompts me for 2FA because it's been some amount of time since I proved that I was me. So I'm going to see if I can find this. I think this was the right one. Who knows? I have so many MFA apps, it's almost impossible. All right. So here's my command prompt, and it actually works. And of course, I'm doing this without interrupting the end user. So it's nice to be able to launch a command prompt without troubling them. I can do the same thing with PowerShell. There's a 64-bit PowerShell into the system. I can do a remote desktop connection. I can do a NinjaOne remote connection. So you have some options when it comes to remote control. The NinjaOne built-in connection is actually pretty good, and we use that almost exclusively, but you do have some other option. There's an add-on if you're familiar with Splashtop. That's another, and I'll show you that in just a second. But I can connect using the NinjaOne remote to this system, and there she is, and I can go ahead and log into it. Assuming I remember my password, right? And there it is. I can also see these or jump into these. I don't have to go into the individual unit like I've done here where I have my system here. I can go to the dashboard, click the organization that I'm interested in, find my workstation here, and then I have the ability to do all those things I showed you just from a different vantage point. So again, the PowerShell command shell, and then I have even more remote tools. So I have remote registry, task manager, file browser. So if I click file browser, just as an example, it just pops up, and then I pretend I'm in the file system because I am. And I can look at files that are in here. I can create new folders. I can upload files to this individual system, whatever I want to do there. We also have, let's take a look at, let's take a look at the server here. Under this particular server, I have the Splashtop option enabled. This is another remote control application that you can select if as an add-on if you want to. It's sometimes nice to have two in case for some reason one of them is getting wonky and you really need to get into the system. It's nice to have a second option. So here you have the splash top display. You know, it's a little different. The Control-Alt-Delete is up here as opposed to being the lightning bolt that we saw on the previous one, but it works well. So it's a good remote control solution. Additionally, you can, if you want to, or if you need it just as a secondary method, you can set it up for RDP. So to do that, here's the remote desktop. I'm going to click it, say connect. It's going to give me a little RDP icon. I'm going to go ahead and run that. See these familiar screens that show up. And then eventually it'll ask me for my credentials and it'll log me into as an RDP session. So lots of ways to get remote access to the system. And one I didn't show you, but I guess I'll go ahead and do it. Ninja added this fairly recently, and this is this connect in background mode. And that's the ability to have a partial graphical user interface. There's a lot of techs, if they haven't been around, you know, since the earth cooled like I have, they like their GUIs. So this gives you a limited, oh, here we go. See what happens? Talk about security. All right, let's see. Is that the right one? I hope it is. Yeah, I guess it is. So you can go into this limited GUI and you've got some tools here, right? File browser, system properties, all this good stuff. And again, this is a graphical interface where you're not interrupting the end user. So they don't see any of this, and you don't see anything they're doing, but you do have some ability other than using a command line interface if you're more comfortable using a GUI. So that's something that Ninja added not terribly long ago, not too many releases ago. So that's kind of cool. Okay, let's see what we do on time. I'm going to have to speed up here. I got too much stuff to show you guys. Monitoring. Monitoring is, let's jump over to, what do we want to see? Policy. And then we'll go to servers. Okay. So monitoring by virtue of the Ninja agent that's running on these systems, we have under policy, what do we want to monitor, and then what do we want to do with it? So for example, we have a disk free space monitor set up here. Anybody ever have disk space issues? So the condition, we can set the condition and say, what is our threshold? How long does it have to be in that condition before we are going to be concerned about it? And then we can set, when does it auto reset? Once the condition is no longer there, for how long? What do we do with it? And then we can notify technicians if we want to, or we can just create a ticket. So this is cool stuff where it's, look, just create the ticket, it'll get sent in, it'll get dispatched, assigned, and somebody will go after it to clean up the disk space, as an example. You can also set up, in combination with these condition alerts, you can implement some automation if you want to. So an example of that would be like the SQL service. So let's say we have SQL service running on a server and the state is down. Then we could just create a ticket and have somebody go look at it, or we could go ahead and add an automation here. And the automation that we added is, surprise, surprise, start the agent. Now, if it doesn't start, you can still open a ticket and have somebody go look at it. But a lot of times, these things just stop for no reason, or sometimes after a reboot, they don't start back up like you'd expect them to. And as soon as you go into it and click start, all of a sudden it works just fine. Well, this can do that for you, save you a few minutes here and there. Can make a difference. A print spooler, same thing. You can restart the print spooler, whatever you want to do. You can create even more granular alerting conditions. They have these compound conditions here. This is the ability to add more and more layers of condition this, condition that, condition this, do this automation, et cetera. It can get fairly complex if you wanted to. There is, let's see, monitoring. Let's take a look at, for those of you with virtualized infrastructures, which is probably everybody on the call. Let's see what we have here under system source, ESXi host. So yes, you can't put a Ninja agent, you cannot put a Ninja agent directly on an ESX host. There is no install for that. There's a Linux install, but it's not going to work on an ESX host. However, you can proxy from another system that has a Ninja agent to monitor your ESX hosts. So for example, here is one of our ESX hosts. Again, all the information I would, what is it running? What's the serial number? What policy is it under? And on and on. And there's details and there's, goes, as you can see, monitoring this host. We have all these things that we can look at and they can alert us if they're not green, as an example. Let's see what's next on the hit parade. Oh, deploying files or applications using scripting. Okay, let's take a look at, let's take a look at that. So if we're going to use an automation, this is under the library feature, and actually, why don't I just see if I can demonstrate this for you. We're going to, we'll transfer a file. So there's a file that I want to put in the temp directory on this particular PC, which happens to be my PC. And if I can get this window just right, we might be able to see it happen live, which would be kind of cool. And see, what did I do? I did Revo. Yeah. So there's a product called Revo Uninstaller, which helps you uninstall stuff that your control panel doesn't seem to be able to uninstall. So I just want to move this install file. Okay, so I created this. I told it where to put it, ctemp. I uploaded the file. This is the install file. And I just want to get it onto this computer. I could just as easily do this on 2,000 computers, but I'm just doing it on the one. Oh my goodness, and I have to prove that I'm me again. Yes, I know you guys are really impressed with this high level of security. I certainly am. Okay, and bounce back, and it should pop in here at some point once it moves that file. And there it is. So now I have this install file on my system. So if I really want to install it, I can do so. Away we go. And yeah, we'll create a desktop. We don't care. And it's all done. Now, what if I wanted to actually install an application? Then same kind of thing. I would create an automation. And I think I threw a Firefox. Yeah, so Firefox installer is here. Again, all I did was name it. What kind of systems am I putting it on? I uploaded the 145.0 version of it. And then I can, again, I could send it out to thousands of systems, or I can send it out just to a single system, which is what we're doing. And if I find that, and let's come up here and let's go to automation, and it's a application install, and we called it Firefox, and here it is. And we're going to run a system, and we're going to run it, and let's see if Firefox actually gets installed. And there it is. And away it goes. So you have a lot of automation, flexibility, functionality that you can really dive into and really make a career out of if you wanted to. So there's a lot there. See how we doing on time. Okay, I've got recording, scripting, application. I was going to show you some other stuff with the automations, but we're not going to have time to do it. So that is going to have to go on the back burner. That's a shame. Okay, moving on to, well, let me show you something here, which I thought was kind of cool. So on my system, I can, this is information that was pulled in just by having an agent on the system. I can go into details and see all of this information about the computer. One thing that I found really, really helpful is if I go to disk volume, in this case, the C volume, if for some reason I needed to know my BitLocker recovery key, and it wasn't where I thought it was, like in Active Directory or somewhere out in Azure, I happen to be able to have it right here. No, you cannot copy that. No, you cannot memorize that, but that's my BitLocker key. So it's right there, and it's just yet another nice place to have that stored in case you ever get that blue screen that is demanding it. Okay, let's see, moving on to reporting. So reporting, you can create your own reports. They typically are in either a summary or a data table type of report. And then you can, after you create them, you can schedule them. So if you want a report to go out on a schedule, you can say what you're going to call it and how often are you going to run it. So in this case, it's being run monthly, day of the month, run it every month, it never ends, reporting never ends, and who do you want to send it to? And put your recipients in here, and then that report will automatically be generated and emailed to your recipients on the 8th of every month. So taking a look at some of the reports, see here, we'll look at, well, that was the executive summary. We'll look at executive summary. And we'll just go ahead and pick system source. We'll pick one ourselves. So this is just to give you an idea of some of the built-in components of the reporting engine. So I can see where am I with monitoring and server availability and disk help. Now the antivirus, I'll just mention this. So when it comes to a single solution versus multiple point solutions, what we have decided to do so far at System Source is to use NinjaOne for all the things that we feel it does very, very well. And for things that aren't quite ready, in our opinion, for prime time, we'll use a best of breed point solution. For example, antivirus. We do not use the built-in antivirus in Ninja. Doesn't mean that we won't someday, but currently that we aren't using that. They do have one. It is available as one of the things you can replace. Additionally, knowledge base. NinjaOne does have a documentation module, and you can put all of your information in there and have it all in one place, which is really, really nice. We happen to have a wiki. It's the Atlassian Confluence wiki, and we've invested in that for I don't know, coming up on 2 decades. So there's a lot of information there that needs to be migrated. So we just haven't moved to the knowledge base here. So just being transparent with you. We use Ninja for lots and lots of things, but there are some things we're still using point solutions for just because they're best of breed, or Ninja just isn't quite ready for what we need. So here we have the breakdown of all the different operating systems, etc. It goes on and on and on, and then it gives you almost an inventory, if you will, of all these things, including what they are, what's the serial number, just basic inventory reports that you might need to have on a recurring basis. Let's take a look at what's next. Let's go over to our other screen. Here we go. Okay, so we've looked at ticketing, patching, remote control. Oh, I'm going to show you one more thing there. I got to show you. Monitoring, scripting, reporting, inventory, asset management, knowledge base we talked about briefly. Okay, just want to make sure that you guys are getting what you were promised. Okay, back over to 3. So what didn't I show you? Here's something that I didn't show you. In addition to the remote control that you saw for Windows, which you have lots and lots of options, there's also remote control for Mac and remote control for Linux. So for example, if I wanted to remote into, this happens to be a Linux server noted by the Penguin, I can jump in to a terminal session as the root, and it would be as if I was SSH'd into that system. And if you don't believe that you're root, you can ask it, and sure enough, you are. So that makes that like really super convenient. And then I can also, let's see here, I think we have some Macintosh in here. Yeah, so here's a Mac. I can jump into it using Ninja Remote as well. Again, there's a Mac agent, there's a Linux agent, there's a Windows agent, there's a Android agent, there's an iPhone agent. Okay, and here's my Mac ready to go if I need to get into that. So I just wanted to show you that there was remote control available through the agents for other architectures. And let's see here, going back to my other screen. Oh yeah, so warranty tracking. Let's see, let's go to the dashboard. Let's click devices. Let's pick system source. Here we have, because I've included it in this view, and again, you have control over all this stuff. You can come in and say, I want to add any of these columns to my view. This view happens to have the warranty end date. So there's a built-in component in Ninja that will actually attempt to go out and find out what is the warranty for this device based on its make, its model, and its serial number. And you can see here where it's showing us, green is in warranty, yellow is going to be out of warranty, and red is it's already out of warranty. So that could be a nice report that you can run. You can download this, you should export it into CSV, turn it into an Excel spreadsheet, whatever your boss needs to make purchasing decisions. So that comes in pretty handy. Another thing, oh yeah, BitLocker, I wanted to show you this report, the BitLocker status. For those of you using BitLocker, it's nice to know whether it is still enabled. You can even set up alerting to tell you when it's not. So here's examples, various systems. Yes, it's enabled. Yes, the disk encryption is on. But you can see here's an example, a couple of them that are enabled, but the disk encryption is off, right? So if you have a standard, back to standards again, that says you have to have BitLocker enabled, has to be turned on, then you can report on that and you can alert on that, and then you can go after it. Finally, dashboards, other than what we've already looked at. This is kind of an overriding. You can see I'm on the dashboard selection, and there's a bunch of selections within the dashboard. Let's see how we're doing on time, and we're almost out of time. Shoot. All right. So here's the overall dashboard. It tells me, this is like really important, how many servers are down. I have one server down. I guess I need to know about that. I click on it, boom, it tells me, oh yeah, it's that dev server that we turned down on purpose. So that is not a concern, but it's nice to know that something is looking for me. I can see failed patches, software patches we didn't even get to, but there are third-party pieces of software. They've got about 6,000 of them that if you want to, you can monitor, and you can even mandate that they be installed if they are not in the inventory of the system that you're managing. And with all that, I guess I had better put an end to this, get you back over here. And I guess we got it. We do have NinjaOne available on a short-term agreement if you're interested. We'll go as short as 6 months. We do have an onboarding package, which includes getting the agents deployed, creating the technician accounts, at least the initial ones for you. We'll train your admins. Of course, there's lots of self-training in Ninja, but we'll get you started. Also, policy configuration and then the initial ticketing board creation. So if you have interest in that, we do offer that as a package. And with that, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to take those now. Okay. Not seeing any questions. Okay. Well, I appreciate, sorry we ran 2 minutes over, but I appreciate your time very much. And thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.